This is the Shrum Collection. You guys are in for a real treat. In this video, we're going to talk about what the Shrum Collection is, why it's an exceptional collection, what makes it so special, and you're actually going to get to meet Mr. Shrum here in just a moment, and then we're going to process all of this and go through some of the key highlights all right here in this video. Also, we're going to announce the 20,000 subscriber giveaway winner later in the video, so stay tuned for that. But most of these, by the time you're watching this, have already been processed and are available for sale right now at brycecomics.com. So head over there, use code COLLECT10 for 10% off. And we also have a monthly giveaway over at brycecomics.com. I'll put up on the screen here the new giveaway just for being subscribed to that newsletter, and that's where you're going to get notifications when we drop new chunks out of this collection, because it's going to happen over time. So make sure you're subscribed to that newsletter and follow us over on Whatnot. There's a link down below. Some of this is going to be brought to Whatnot for some exciting live auction shows, and you can get $15 towards your first purchase if you use my link down in the description. And lastly, on Instagram, I believe some of these grails are going to be listed on Instagram first, where they usually sell before they ever hit the website. So make sure you follow me over on Instagram to get access to those as well. Without further ado, let's hop into Zoom and meet Mr. Shrum. Tom, thank you so much for coming on the show. I know it really resonates with people to see the collector behind the collection, and not always an option, but I'm just really appreciative that you're able and came on today, so thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm flattered to be here.
And so, like I was saying, at this point, nobody has seen any of the books. So I thought that would be a great place to start. And you can kind of tell us a little bit about your collecting journey, and specifically what you liked to collect and why you collected these 400 slabs that you've decided to sell to me.
Okay, yeah. So my journey into comics, I mean, starts very typical for someone my age. I'm almost 60 years old now. I was your typical kid with comics strewn all over the bedroom floor. Walk on them, roll them up in my back pocket, wrap them around the handlebars of my bicycle as I'm riding over to a friend, and get sweat all over them. As I got towards, I guess it was about 12, my taste started evolving from Disney comics, Gold Keys, Donald Duck, Turok, Son of Stone, Magnus Robot Fighter, that sort of thing. And I started getting into Marvel comics where there was a story continuity, not every story was self-contained. And one day I walked into my local quick shop. They didn't even call them convenience stores back then. I don't even think that was a thing, but it was essentially the local version of a 7-Eleven. And I saw Godzilla #9, the old 1977 Marvel series. I always loved Godzilla, and I couldn't believe there was a comic of it. And that's the first comic that I really realized where there were issue numbers and you could get a run, collect the whole series. I quickly noticed that in the Marvel advertising pages, they had ads where you could buy back issues. And so I quickly got my allowance pulled together, my paper money, and because I had a paper route at the time, and I sent off for the back issues of 1 through 8, and they were, 75 cents or $1 or whatever. And I collected that full run, and that's when I started seriously getting into comics. So I had that whole set. And I also love the toy series of the late 70s, like Micronauts, ROM, Shogun Warriors. As time went on, I just got more and more into it. And one day I was in a bookstore in my local shopping mall, and I saw this thing called the Overstreet Price Guide. And that's when I realized comics can be valuable. And I bought that thing, and get a load of this. The Overstreet Guide was like $8 back then.
Oh, yeah.
And it was the ninth edition. Oh, you've got the first one. Very
This is
cool. I got that. It was the ninth edition. And I said, wow, these old comics can be worth something. And I did see in the Overstreet Guide, they were selling bags and boards. And I just learned about that whole side of the hobby. Right around that time, I also stumbled across, I remember my friend had it, and this is a huge part of the collection, so I'm going somewhere with this. He had a copy of X-Men 112. Man, I tell you, that art just blew me away. I'd never seen a comic so beautiful, and I just started really paying attention to artists and things like that. And I didn't buy another X-Men for a long time, but the first X-Men I ever bought off the stands was 136, where Cyclops is holding Phoenix in his arms. And just thought those were the most beautiful comics. I started going back trying to get all the back issues of those that I could get. And I never got the whole run going back to issue 94. but I really got into X-Men. And man, I was huge into that. Right around that time, the new Teen Titans came out. So those were the big two back in the day. It was X-Men and New Teen Titans. Those were the big books. And right around that time, comic stores started popping up. So I just got crazy into the hobby at that time, buying half the Marvel line. I was mostly a Marvel guy, and I collected heavily into college. Graduated high school in '83, went to college, bought comics first 3 years in college, and then I just hit a wall right around the time of Secret Wars,
Mm.
the first Secret Wars series. Marvel was coming out with all these mini series and the 4 issue mini series and the 12 issue maxi series. The centerpiece of my 400 slabs, primarily that Godzilla collection and my X-Men 94 to 143. And some of those are my own original purchases off the stands at the time.
So you touched on it a little bit, but question a lot of people are going to ask is, why now? Why decide to sell now?
Yeah, so a couple of reasons. One, like I said, I'm not getting any younger. I did complete some of my major goals. I still love graded comics. It's been a lonely hobby for me. I'm not really dialed into the community. I don't go to cons. I don't like the crowds. That part of the hobby doesn't appeal to me a whole lot. My local comic shop is not really a slab type friendly place. They kind of disavow graded comics. They're one of those types. They don't understand them at all. They're just not part of that market. And so I'm just kind of alone. And my wife, very politely, when I show her the slabs, look, honey, look at Giant Size X-Men #1. Do you realize the gravitas of this comic? And she just, oh, that's wonderful, hun. But it's just
Right.
it's kind of lonely. I have two boys. They're in their 30s, and I'm not going to, bequeath the comics to them. And so when I saw your videos, I realized this is a guy that cares. You care about, you realize the emotional connection we have to our collections. We're parting with them. Also, you offer top dollar. That's not insignificant, but I just got the impression that when I saw your transaction with Mr. Wilbur, that's when I just knew, even before we started talking numbers, that hey, this is a guy that isn't just going to heartlessly try to flip. He's going to look at them, and I just feel really good that they'll go to a good home and someone that'll appreciate them. At least I'm hopeful, and I'm just excited to see where they end up. Because I've really enjoyed these comics. A lot of them are original purchases, like I said, but it's just time to move on, and I'm okay with that. I have a clean conscience. And I've still got,
Yeah.
as you can see behind me, I've still got a pretty significant raw collection I've got to get through next.
I wanted to show or have you show us, if you could, on the spreadsheet, which ones of these books are ones that you bought off the shelf, because that is absolutely incredible that you're able to get a Bronze Age book in a 9.8 that you bought off the shelf and had for what,
Yeah,
2 decades?
yeah, I'll tell you too right away. So go to Amazing Spider-Man where it says comic cost 45 cents, 53
Okay.
cents, 60 cents, and why those are kind of strange numbers. There was probably either tax included. For a while, I was buying them. If I was on the comic store's pull list, I got a 10% discount. So if the comic had a cover price of 60 cents, it was 10% off. So paid cover price for it essentially. So look
Wow.
there.
Yeah.
Look at that 238, 9.8 off white to white. I bought that at my college comic store
Oh my
and
God.
for cover price. And back then I was OCD. I mean, I would read them one time very carefully I would use like a yearbook or a textbook or something, and I would read the comic in a textbook, very carefully, and then put it in a bag and board. They were touched one time, read one time. So anything where you see a cover price of 60 cents or 43 cents or 75 cents, those are original newsstand purchases. And you'd be able to see some of those. I'm trying to think, 252. If you look at ASM 252, that's another original purchase. And
I
look at the
mean,
G
that's incredible. It's
valuation.
it's hard for me to believe because I look at a 252. If I get a 252 raw and I buy it, I mean, it's just almost impossible for those that are
Yeah,
watching this that don't understand a 9.8 of a Bronze Age book. It's not easy to get. 252 is not an easy book to
they're
get
just
a
not out
9.8.
there.
I would venture to believe that a lot of ASM 252s in 9.8 were probably came from a box of 100. I remember seeing on eBay this one guy, this one comic shop had one 9.8 copy every single week for like over a year, and he kept selling it. At the time there were 300 or 400 bucks. I bought my copy from him, and he probably found a box of them, and that makes sense to get a
Yeah.
9.8.
Let me tell you a couple more. Punisher limited series #1. If you go down to, oh, that Edge of Spider-Verse I bought brand new off the stands when it came out. I mean, that's a modern, obviously, but that was
Yeah.
that was an original purchase on my pull list at my comic store here in Virginia before I stopped collecting new comics. Um,
Did
but
they,
Punisher,
when you, with your poll list, did they put the book in a bag and board, or was it
no,
just
they just
no bag and
shoved it in
board?
a long
I,
box, and they had little dividers. And my proprietor, who was also a personal friend, I just became good friends with him. If I didn't like the one that was on my pull list, he would let me go through. I won't name the comic store, but he would let me go through other people's pull lists so I could pull out a better copy.
can you tell me a little bit about the set that you have that's the #1 on the CGC registry?
Oh yeah, go to flying saucers. So I learned about the Flying Saucers series, which is a little Dell series that was in the late 60s. When I was out of the hobby for 26 years, I was stationed at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, and I just saw in the newspaper that there was a local comic store going out of business. And I told my wife, I said, hey, I haven't collected comics in several years, and let's just go see what they have. And they were just basically selling everything in the store for $1. And I saw this quaint series, and I sent off the one I bought for $1 there is that 8.5. I sent that off to CGC back in what 2012, 2013, and it came back in 8.5. And I said, man, I would just love to complete this series. There's only five. That shouldn't be that hard to do. And I went about trying to complete the 5 issue run, and they eventually came up for sale as I started watching for them, and I've had the #1 set in the CGC registry for I think 8 years in a row. And it's the guy before me. He'd had the #1 set for like 6 years in a row, and so I snaked him out of the #1 set.
Do you have any advice for people watching this, or is there anything you would have done differently?
The only thing I would say that I would have done differently in hindsight is I did slab early on. I was slabbing everything that moved. It just, if I thought it was cool, I didn't look at the money aspect of it at all. And I still believe in that because as I was boxing everything up for you, I was like, oh, this one's tough this was so cool, even though it's not really worth a whole lot. I do believe in the whole collect what you love thing, but you should be careful about just throwing tons of money at grading a bunch of comics. Be selective, have a set a goal, and be happy. It made me very happy, and I'm just so excited to see where these things are going. And I believe that my collection, I couldn't have gone to better hands. I'm just honored that you're selling it, and I'm just excited to see who ends up with stuff. And if anyone ever has questions, just reach out to me. I think you can contact me through my YouTube thing or my I'll be in the CGC registry with one comic because I
Yeah,
kept one single comic.
I'll put in the description an email if you want to share an email. And it's been my honor, Tom. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And yeah, I can't thank you enough.
It was great talking to you.
Congratulations to Nemo Griffin. Nemo, you won the 20,000 subscriber giveaway and got all 6 of the CGC 9.8 slabs. And congratulations to Eric Drury. Eric, you won the newsletter giveaway at Bryce Comics Tom for this Incredible Hulk 340 newsstand. Congrats, guys. We got everything unpacked and unboxed and here. And it's not as clean and organized as we wanted to, but we're getting there. So there's actually one box lost in transit. I went ahead and just paid Mr. Shrum anyways because if it doesn't show up, I'll do an insurance claim. And we had 0 damages. 0 damages with his shipping. As you can see from meeting Mr. Shrum and seeing some of his spreadsheet, he has great attention to detail. And so packing was phenomenal, 0 damages, which is great. And I hope you enjoyed meeting Mr. Shrum to see why this collection is so exceptional and why this collection is special, because, you know, we talked about it off camera. When he bought these books and the way he collected, he would take the comic book that he bought and put it inside of a regular book to read it, inside of a book to read it, so that he didn't, you know, put finger bends or spine ticks or anything. Read it one time, maybe more than once, and then put it into a bag and board and kept it. Some of these for decades. He bought them off the shelf and kept them pristine for decades, like this book right here, Amazing Spider-Man number 238, first appearance of the Hobgoblin. He bought this off the rack for 60 cents and kept it for decades, read it. It maintained the 9.8, and not only that, after he kept it for decades, got it graded over a decade ago. And as you can see with this, the case is in pristine condition. So even the slabs that he got graded himself and has had for over a decade now, they've all been kept in Mylar. They haven't been shipped across the country, and it shows. So make sure you sign up to that newsletter if you're interested in any of these books, because we're going to release them in chunks, and we will always send a notification out through the newsletter when a new batch is available. Let's take a look at the keys. All right, so here we have X-Men number 112 in a 9.8 with white pages, and I am going to put on the website a little asterisk in the title if it was one of the books that was bought off the shelf for cover price. If you think that's as cool as I think it is, because I just think it's amazing that some of these were kept for decades, enjoyed, you know, and not like part of a warehouse find or something, and still maintain the 9.8. So look for that asterisk on the website. We have X-Men 116 in a 9.8. We have X-Men 121 in a 9.8, first full appearance of Alpha Flight. X-Men 129 in a 9.8, white pages, first appearance of Kitty Pryde, the White Queen, Emma Frost, and Sebastian Shaw. X-Men 130, 9.8 white, first appearance of the Dazzler. Amazing Spider-Man 202, cool Punisher cover. ASM 252, 9.8 white, ties for the with Marvel Team Up 141 for the first appearance of the Black costume. And Amazing Spider-Man 238, in my opinion, one of the crown jewels of the collection, just because of how cool it is. He bought this for cover price. First appearance of the Hobgoblin with the tattoos, 9.8. Amazing Spider-Man number 300 and a 9.6 with white pages, origin and first full appearance of Venom. Edge of Spider-Verse number 2, which he bought off the shelf as well for cover price. First appearance of the new Spider-Woman and Gwen Stacy. And it's not quite the black variant, so if you follow the channel, you know there's a dark error variant. This isn't it, it's close, but the true black variants, you can't differentiate the buildings from the background. This one, you can see there is a slight color difference, but this is definitely a darker variant. Not necessarily more rare, but it is not like the intended color for that cover. Walking Dead number 1, 9.6. And I was like, why is this a 9.6? Why is this not a 9.8? It looks perfect from the front. There's no spine ticks. And it's not until I actually talked to Tom on the phone to see like if he knew why. And he actually had this one pressed. And so he was happy with the 9.6 because there is a ding on the corner that he had it pressed out and it came up to a 9.6. It's possible that that can be improved if, if it was pressed again, because it's not color breaking, but it would be a difficult bump. Walking Dead 2 in a 9.8, first appearance of Laurie and Carl. Giant Size X-Men number 1 in a 9.4. Now, this is an absolutely beautiful copy, and one of the things that's significant about this is the spine. I'm trying to focus on my finger so you can see the spine. You see how you can read Giant Size X-Men? And it's like that through the whole spine. This spine is like almost perfect. A lot of times you'll see these spines are crushed because they're, a square bound book, and it's just got really sharp corners, sharp edges, and you have to ask, like, why is it a 9.4? And if you look right here, the grader's notes say that there's a reader's crease right there, which breaks color, which is that faint little line right there across the blue, and there's a couple other things going on with it, but man, it presents like a 9.8. Like, you would have a hard time telling the difference between this and a 9.8, and that's not always the case, but a very nice copy there. New Mutants 98 and a 9.8, first appearance of Deadpool, X-Men 101 and a 9.2, signed by Chris Claremont. So it says signed by Chris Claremont on the first page in marker, so I'll list this one as signed. If you want to crack it out and have it authenticated by JSA, I will guarantee that it's an authentic signature, otherwise I will buy it back. Ultimate Spider-Man #1 in a 9.8, signed by Stan Lee. Really cool to see that. Walking Dead #3, first appearance of Alan, Donna, Billy, Ben, Jim, Dale, Carol, Sophia, Amy, and Andrea. X-Men 50 in a 9.4 with white pages, first use of that classic X-Men logo. ASM 40, Origin of the Green Goblin. X-Men 141 with white pages, newsstand edition, first appearance of Rachel, Avalanche, and the alternate future X-Men. X-Men 131 in a 9.8, second appearance of the Dazzler in this awesome white Queen Emma Frost cover. X-Men 94 in a 9.4, beautiful copy. X-Men 14 in an 8.0, first appearance of the Sentinels. Weird Fantasy #21, Frank Frazetta cover. Awesome to see this, 1953. X-Men 100 in a 9.6. So, massive thank you to Mr. Shrum for entrusting me with your collection. It was an absolute pleasure getting to meet you and working with you. Thank you to everyone for sticking with me to the end of the video. Thanks for all the support and the interest I'm sure there's going to be in all of these awesome books. If you have a collection that you're looking to sell, don't hesitate to reach out. We'll get you a fast, fair offer and get you paid quick. Don't forget, we have that monthly giveaway here with the YouTube channel. If you subscribe, comment, and like, you're entered to win a free slab. Brand new giveaway for this month. And if you subscribe to that newsletter at Bryce Comics, you're entered to win a free slab. Follow us on Whatnot. We're going to have some awesome shows with books from this collection. Link down below for $15 towards your first purchase. Thanks as always. We'll catch you in the next video. Bye.